We're here with Sara Erickson of Renegade Games, and we're going to be talking about Clank, a deck building game.
So this is an adventure game where you are using deck building as a mechanic, but really the goal is to take your adventure from the top of this cool looking castle up here all the way down into the depths of the dungeon and find one of these fabulous artifacts.
So a dungeon crawl where we're looking for artifacts that I assume are worth victory points?
Yes.
Okay.
But they're also very important because you cannot end the game or cannot leave the dungeon without one of these.
Okay.
So really, the townspeople are super excited about them. And if you don't have an artifact, they don't care about you. So you really, really need an artifact.
So you got to have that prestige. You have to want them to want you to come back home.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
The problem is that they're the dragon's artifacts. And so you, as you're wandering around, you're trying to get these metal artifacts. You've got metal body armor, and sometimes you make some noise. And when that happens, you're going to be playing these cards, and if you accidentally flip over one, well, it's going to happen as a deck builder. When you flip over one of these cards, it says +1 Clank, you've got to put one of your health cubes into the Clank area.
Okay.
Problem is that when you take one of these artifacts, it's going to make the dragon angry, and when you flip over one of these cards from up here that has a dragon on it, the dragon's going to attack everyone. So all of the cubes that have been placed into this area from all the different players are going to be collected and put into the dragon bag. You mix it all up with some cubes that are already in there.
Preloaded, okay.
And you draw out the number of cubes based on what's on the dragon rage track.
So 2.
So if you draw out
black.
2, they're just the dragon cubes, and nothing happens. But if you happen to draw out 2, and one of them is a clear color, it'll go onto their damage
Hit track, okay.
And if they ever get all the way full, they die.
And you're out of the game?
You are out of the game, but the game will then go on to a 4-turn timer. So everyone else only has 4 more turns to make it out of the dungeon, or else they won't get any points either.
And the dragon wins. So the game can win.
Well, no, not
Okay.
really. Well, I guess maybe, but I've never seen that.
Never happened.
But the other way that the game usually ends is that once you grab one of these artifacts, you can only carry one. So you've got to make your way back out of the dungeon, and that also ends the game. As soon as one player leaves with an artifact, the game goes to a 4-turn timer as well. Everyone else then is down here wandering around and has to scramble to get back out, because if they are down here in the dungeon, when those 4 turns are over, then they lose, they die, they don't get any points. If they're above in this castle area and they have an artifact, then the townspeople care about them a little bit because they've got a little prestige. So they save them, but they don't get any bonuses for making it all the way out. If you make it all the way out within those 4 turns, you get an extra 20 points. So it's a big deal to make it out.
Okay. So I see all the different, I guess, lanes you can follow and all the different icons here. Tell me about the dragon and the footsteps.
Absolutely.
And the locks.
So it is a deck builder. On your turn, you're going to be starting out with this basic deck of 10 cards. You're going to shuffle them up and draw 5. And they have a few different themes on these cards. Most of them are going to have skill points. And you can spend those skill points to buy cards up in this area. And each one of the costs are down here in the corner. So to buy this card, you'd have to spend 2. You get that, and you add it to your hand, discard it, and then draw back up to 5 at the beginning of your turn. So that's what the blue ones are, but to be able to move around in the dungeon, you're going to need to have feet on your card. So these are boots. Every boot lets you move 1 space. Okay. But if a space has 2 boots on it, you need 2 boots on your cards.
That way.
The other problem is that maybe if you want to go this way, but the arrow says you can't go that way, and so if you were here you could go, but from here you can't go that direction. These crystal caverns mean you stop and you cannot move again using boots for the rest of your turn. So that pauses your movement
right
for
there.
a little bit.
Yep.
Some spaces have extra little bonuses in them, and they can be things like draw 3 cards or get some extra points. But some of these tunnels have monsters in them. And that's a little bit scary because if you go through a tunnel with a monster, then you're going to take a point of damage straight onto your track. It doesn't even go into the flank area. But if you have a card that's got some swords on it, you can use swords to automatically defeat the monsters in the tunnels. So 1 sword per monster.
Okay.
You can also use these swords to defeat monsters that pop up in this row. This would need 3 swords to defeat that monster, and it gives you an immediate benefit. And then
And it's not added to your deck, it's just discarded, and you just get the immediate benefit?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a few cards up here, like the teleporter as well. Use it to jump from one room to another, and then you're just done with it, and you don't put it in your deck.
Okay.
Same thing with the monsters. The other thing that you'll find in the game is money, and that's the last type of resource. You use money to buy these other types of helpful supplies. The key will get you through the locked rooms, which can make it a lot easier to move around
Gotcha.
in the dungeon. The backpack lets you carry 2 artifacts. Normally, like I said, you can only carry
carry
one.
one.
Now you can get 2. That's a lot more points because all of these green circles, that's how many points you get at the end of the game.
Okay.
You can get those on cards, like taking an emerald, they'll get you 5 points, or you can get these supplies, or your artifacts are also worth points. So you'll just add up all the green things plus all your money and see who has the most at the end.
But you have to get out to win.
You have to make it up into this area
Castle.
to score points. If you make it all the way out, you get an extra 20 points, which
Oh,
is
okay.
a lot.
That seems like
Most
pretty
games-
significant, yeah.
Yeah, most games you're going to end with somewhere between 50 and 100 points, depending on if somebody runs out fast or
Right.
if they're really risky and want to stay down here a little longer.
Are you able to purchase more than one of these
Yep.
extra items down here? So you could buy all the keys, and then you would be the only person that could.
You could, but they
Technically,
cost you 7 points each, and if you already have one, you
Yeah.
maybe don't want to waste your time doing that.
Right.
So it's a lot of push your luck and risk. It's great because you're going down there, you get your artifact, and you're kind of thinking about getting out, and you realize that that guy's already almost out, and you've really got to book it, but you may not have the cards. You may not have enough boots to get out very
Okay.
quickly. You may just not draw the right thing. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of suspense. Drawing the cubes out of the bag is always really tense,
Right.
which is a lot of fun.
Are there any cards that let you affect the other players directly? Like you can attack them and steal stuff from them, or?
There are a few cards in here that make other players have more Clank. So then every time you play that card, they're going to be putting cubes into here, and that makes it more likely
That they're going to get drawn. Okay.
But otherwise, the real big interaction is how quickly you try and push it to get out.
Okay.
And that's where you kind of get distracted and you're not paying attention to other players a little bit, and then suddenly you realize they're running for the door, and you're like, oh no, I gotta go.
Right. So you were saying this was by Direwolf. Will you tell us that story again? You were telling us before we got here about how they create, because that's pretty cool.
It's awesome. So Direwolf Digital is this fantastic studio that's in Denver, Colorado, and we have known them for a long time. They're all great guys, and we're working on this Lanterns app for them. We have
Yes.
another game.
And if you haven't tried the Lanterns app yet, it's really great.
It's amazing. So we partnered with them on a few things. Lanterns is our most recent, but we also did the Fuse app with them in the past. So we've been working with them for a couple years, and they said, hey, we have this game that we designed that's a board game, and we don't publish board games. You guys want to do it? And we'd already partnered with them, so we said, sure, let's check it out. And we tried it, and it's just been amazing. We're so happy that these guys are apparently good at everything. So
Well, they
great
make games
partnership.
for a living. I mean, digital games, it carries over pretty close to a board game. So,
Yep.
is there anything else? I know you brought Lotus, and you had some play mats out here that were gorgeous. So, what?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on at this event. Lotus is just great. We've been doing it all fall. It came out in September,
Okay.
but the response to it has been huge. We're on our 3rd printing of it already,
Wow.
and it's just blowing up. It's great because it's a really light game on the surface. You can learn the rules in a few minutes. You can play it with your grandma. You can play with your gaming group.
Right.
But there's a ton of strategy in that game. Once you start playing, you're trying to add cards onto the board which grow flowers. And when a flower is completed, whoever placed the last petal will get a really good benefit. But whoever had placed the most petals
Majority, yeah.
gets the majority control, and then they'll also get a benefit. And so there's a lot of strategy of how do I play this card so I don't give somebody else a great benefit? How do I get the most for myself?
Right. Yeah, I
Very
was looking at it. It
beautiful
looked awesome. So I was really excited about that one too.
Yeah,
So-
we've been playing it a lot and having a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
so
thanks so much.
no problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, guys.